Pasta?
Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m.
Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock
In downtown Atlanta.
For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992.
Or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com.
For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant.
Authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
Now, you can live in Texas and not have a good red meat blend. Texas Cowboy Dust is designed for steak and other red meats. It's out to be my most popular spice blend, made with onions, peppers, ground mushrooms, pink salt, and other spices. Texas Cowboy Dust also goes great with chicken, pork, vegetables, and adds a restaurant-quality sheen to gravies and sauces.
It's like a loop machine. Going around town, trying to get down.
Vanilla smoked sea salt seasoning is for seafood. The tarragon and fennel bring out the natural sweetness in seafood. I also use it in rice dishes, on yams, asparagus, blueberry pancakes, and believe it or not, chocolate chip cookies. Vanilla smoked sea salt adds a salty and savory component to sweet dishes that create a symphony for the tongue.
Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee.
It was a monumental game for A&M and Tampa. It was a monumental game. Somebody had to lose, and thank God it was them this time.
We knew it was going to be a battle. Look at Jake Ave's record. 202 and 36, I think, some off-the-wall figures.
And nobody would play him because they didn't want to take a chance of getting beat. But the truth of it is,
over 46,000 tickets. Blacks were sitting in the east stands. The whites were sitting in the west stands. And the score wound up 34-28.
The only thing we proved that we wasn't inferior, that we were not inferior, and we were not afraid.
For one night, for 160 minutes, we was better than them.
The Cuvée Group is
YT Productions.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball, So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson. And you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, boy, you gon' learn today, how your team they play. How they play, yeah. We represent that swag, that MEAC. And let me say, what's up to Tennessee?
Tennessee State.
Well, this is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, coming to you from inside the HBCU Sports Lab. The lab. Before I get started, I have a heavy heart. I'm going to dedicate the show today to a mentor of mine. And that happens to be not only a fraternity brother, but a faculty member of UH, Brother Dr. James Conyers. He's joined the Omega chapter, as we say, in Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. He was a true mentor for me in terms of the academy. You know, all the accolades, and y'all hear about the doctor. Well, he was one of the individuals behind the scene that really allowed me to develop in such a way to get even more confidence in what I could do at that level. He developed the African American Studies program at U of H. Much of my HBCU sports studies framework that y'all hear about are based on his mentorship, his undergirding from his theoretical approach, and the way that I'm unapologetic about supporting HBCUs and how I push others to get an opportunity if they're seeking to grow in different ways. It was based on what he poured into me and so many others. Literally those publications that you see out there in different ways have a lot to do with him and his credit. So in so many ways, he was what we call a brother's brother. He was a teacher, a mentor, a friend, surrogate Baba, and the academy in so many different ways. So it's heavy heart, but he would certainly want me to push through and do what we do. So in honor of him in so many ways, I decided to put on my Nigerian robe that I've had when I traveled to Nigeria, which was inspirational and a lot of things that he put on me. As we say in salute, just wanted to give credit to him. The brother, in so many different ways. Just want to acknowledge him as he would certainly proudly have me do. So with that, we'll carry on with the show and wanted to certainly acknowledge him. So welcome to episode 102 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and a podcast, a show that is covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small. From the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. And as like I said, critical HBCU sports studies. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, none other. We are filming from our home studios and send a signal live to KCOH 1230 AM. Studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper, and a beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. That'll do it for me, gentlemen, in so many different ways. It's good to be amongst you all. Good to be amongst those that support us in so many different ways. And as I said, even a greater appreciation for that. For all the folks, Cicely Parson in the background, and she does a lot of the write-ups for us. Roy Evans in terms of what he does on the production. Chris Gardner, making sure that we look good. G Boom Holly, as we like to call him.
G Boom.
And all those that are moving in terms of 1876 podcast, support in different ways. And also the 1400 Club. Man, this is bigger and beyond us. Shout out to a lot of those folks. Carlos, what he does, Carlos Brown on his show, BJ Jones, in so many different ways, a lot of different people. Stephen Gaither, Tolly, Wiley Pip, all those over there at HBCU Game Day. And so it's just a lot. Prince, what he does in terms of And yes, I'm going down the list and just want to shout out for all those that have poured in me over the years in so many different ways. After this, sometimes we need to make sure that we share. I try to do it as much, but it just seems the right time to continue to do that. Honor Don and all those over there doing their things.
Keisha Kelly, HBCU.
Keisha Kelly, one of the brightest out there doing her thing. She always finds a way to keep me smiling and doing it her way. Certainly want to make sure that every day, shout out for the ladies. A lot more, a lot of people that we can't mention all of them in so many different ways. So charge it to my heart, not my mind, in regards that you are a part of that team that does that. With that, let me go to Charles. Did you want to share some news that HBCU thoughts as well?
Yeah, a heavy heart for me as well today. And I have Jackson State pinned on my lapel, but I lost a classmate today, very good brother, Sekou Smith, who's a Jackson State alumnus. You, of course, familiar with him from NBA TV, but Sekou Smith passed today. Very, very good brother, very intellectual, very smart guy. We've had him on the 1400 Club podcast. It was efforting to get him here as well, you know, and I tell you what, he's a really great guy in terms of beyond just sports, you know, a really good dude. So definitely a heavy heart, and Jackson State community will mourn a very good guy.
Yeah, certainly. Prayers to him. And he did grace us when we were still back in the studio.
You're right. I forgot.
For the NBA. No, I understand. It's a lot emotional, and we're showing that side of us, that we have many different feelings and stuff like that. So certainly understand that. But he was gracious with his time and in different ways. He found a way to come and bless us. So we do have those marks and make sure that his legacy will live on. We'll make sure that happens. With that, Mike, go to you. You have some news that you want to share. Maybe you can bring us back to a more positive side. We don't want to turn off too many followers and listeners out there. Let's bring it back to some HBCU sports.
Yeah, so greetings, brother. And again, my hearts go out to you. Didn't get a chance to interject. Brother Conyers, who's joining the Omega chapter. And if you're a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, you know what that means, that they've joined a list of illustrious men of Alpha Phi Alpha who have passed on from this life to a greater life. So, and to you, Brother Bishop, and the loss of Brother Sekou Smith as well. So heart goes out to you. So having said that, moving on with the show, we got a Panther in the Super Bowl. So
there you go, Mike. I know you're going to make sure to let them know. Let them know.
I was going to let you know. We got a Prairie View Panther that's in the Super Bowl. That's right. Put it up there after becoming one of the most prolific, effective pass rushers in the SWAC conference, playing in his days on AKA the Hill, the original Hill. This second-year pro is now headed for Super Bowl LIV, aka Super Bowl Live, as it's been termed, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Originally arriving to the Yard, the Hill, Bell transitioned, a lot of people don't know that, to defensive line and wreaked havoc, and was named, named all conference honors. In his lone productive season, he piled up 46 tackles, 10 for losses, 7.5 sacks on his way to all conference status. So he was then drafted by the Raiders, of course, and then moved on to the Tampa Bay Bucks. For those of you that are still tracking the NFL and HBCU players that are in the NFL, give a shout out to our Panther, Quentin Bell, as the Panther standout that will be performing in the Super Bowl. So shouts out to him. Kind of rings back to my dad's roommate who was on the Yard, Otis Taylor.
Who should be in the Hall of Fame.
Should be in the Hall of Fame. So shouts out to Quentin Bell. I wish nothing but the best for this young man. So
congratulations.
We'll get into this a little more, but somebody give me a little pat on the back, so I'm sure I'm going to take it after a long couple of days. Chad Cooper says, checking into the class from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. That's right. Go Jags. Thank you, Dr. Cavil, for the article on Black coaches and dynasties. Yes, the dynastic framework of HBCUs. Had to get that in with Brian Fulford of the BCSN Network. Sports Rap allowed me to co-author that with him, boy, and I think we tried to put our foot in it. We get a chance maybe to tease it out. We may see if we can get him in as a guest next week to really take a deeper dive, but, we're going to at least tease it. We want the people to know. Shout out to Kate Johnson getting on here. Chuck Hunt, he's excited. He said Jack State get to come down there to Louisiana Monroe. Check him out. He get to see
We'll
what
get
they
into that.
Herbert Bowden. Oh, Dr. Reed's on here giving us a shout out. And she does all that HBCU history stuff. We got to circle back and get her back on there and see how she finished up on that dissertation that at work she was doing on McClendon and all the work he did at North Carolina Central. I believe that's where she was angling and certainly did her master's in that area. Phillips. Nimzo, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I know I can get that right, is in the building. Jackson State, John Jenkins, I believe in 2021. Okay. Thomas White is on here. Getting so much going on. So everybody, Belinda Johnson, Keith Martin, Reggie House, CIAA is in the house. Talking about congratulations to Coach Joe Taylor, named the College Football Playoff new committee member. I saw that. Clint Clark.
Oh, yeah.
Clip Jackson, Quentin Henry. Yes. William Marceline, Florida Memorial University in the building. Look at the lines up there. Oh, and Pratt. Yes, sir. We're going to make sure you get some love today. Ricky Burton, swag schedule time. Yes, popping up. The swag schedule. Some actor making these funny videos, man. Scary line. I was like, scarecrow and all kinds. I said, all right, son, I see. I look, no, must be feeling good about that S on your chest. I understand. Got in the mix.
What do they say? It's the S on the chest to let you know they are the best.
Is that what they say? S on your chest, huh?
That's what they say.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Just all out there, man. They just all out there.
It's a good schedule. I like it. We have to get into
it. Solid.
I can't believe they, who they have for they homecoming. So.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were gonna chime in with that.
I can't believe they're gonna put Prairie View on their schedule for homecoming.
They got PBA for home. I didn't see it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. You definitely.
Now I will say this. Traditionally, you get up there, but just like I did FAMU with Grambling, I think you can pick a little bit. But like I said, with the 12 teams and the schedule, you're really not gonna get away with a weekend. It doesn't matter. And then with some of the scheduling issues, as I wanted to tell everybody, people forget that athletics does not really control homecoming. That is a university thing. And if the SWAC schedule is set up in such a way, if you traditionally have your homecoming at a certain time of the year and you don't have a week before, a week after, it's going to be what it be. But that doesn't mean that the Panthers can't come down there and spoil it.
You understand that. Brother CB understands that, but will those alumni and those that tailgate you gonna put us as your homecoming? Historically, who you put as your homecoming. I'm just saying that's gonna have a effect.
They won't understand it. So, in Charles, what has surprised you most about the Jackson State schedule besides the opening game? Either in terms of a positive surprise or a negative surprise, what stood out in terms of the Jackson State schedule?
I don't know if it's a positive or negative, but what caught my eye was Southern and Alcorn at the end of the season. That definitively caught my eye. You got Jackson State traveling to Baton Rouge November 13th, and then November 20th, they got Alcorn at Mississippi Veterans Memorial Stadium. But a couple little interesting things in there. They have, of course, start off with FAMU in Miami, but right behind FAMU is Tennessee State. And then they go on the road to FBS opponent Louisiana Monroe. And that's going to be interesting because I think you can get a kind of a taste of what Jackson State is after the first couple of games. And it'll be interesting to see if that FCS-FBS matchup has a little meat to the bone because Louisiana Monroe, they're on the bottom end of the scale in terms of talking FBS. So that'll be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, I like that little meat on the bone and meat on the bone. Going back
might be a little meat on the bone.
Yep. Going back to you, Mike, in terms of that schedule that Southern put out there. While they have homecoming with Prairie View, did you check out the last 5 games?
Yes, absolutely. I was like,
you talk about the last 2, Charles. One of those last 5, as you know, is Southern. But think about that last 5. Run that off, Mike.
Yeah, their last 5 is what? Alcorn State, Florida A&M, Jackson State, Open, and then Grambling State.
Yeah, 4, and then before that with Prairie View.
Yeah, so it starts off with PV. Then you got to go over to Lorman, Mississippi. Then you got Florida A&M and Jackson State at home. You got an open weekend, and then you have Grambling State in the Bayou Classic, of course. But that last 5 games, that last stretch for Southern, they're gonna have a good football team, but that last
Barrett Williams jumped in here. Barrett Williams.
I'm loving Southern's home schedule.
That home
exactly.
Oh yeah, it's there.
If you're anybody, if you're anybody else but a Southern fan, you're liking this schedule because you can. This is like the SEC. You could literally get beat up at the end of the season.
Oh, I was just gonna say that. I don't like to bring up the SEC a lot, but there's no doubt when you look at these type of schedules, they are just stacking on stacking. And you, like I said, it doesn't matter. You can't run from anybody.
Yeah, you can't.
You're gonna have to put your cleats on, your jock strap, your helmet, and you're gonna have to bring it week in, week out throughout the SWAC. You can put so many games on the television, whatever you want to do, and that's a nod to the Dr. Charles McCullough, the commissioner of SWAC, as he's putting in that work. Go ahead, Charles.
See, this is fun stuff here. See, I'm looking at the home schedule, and I'm looking at the Jag Nation coming out this fall. You got P. Richardson class, you got Mont Miles, but McNeese State comes into Baton Rouge.
Absolutely,
that'll be a really good FCS matchup. You got Texas Southern there October 2nd, Prairie View for homecoming, November 6th. FAMU comes into Baton Rouge. Right behind that is Jackson State. Boy, it is good to be a Jag fan with this home schedule. Jag Nation, I will look forward to seeing full stadiums this upcoming fall. And they got a stacked team too.
Yeah,
they're deep.
That defense is looking good. They got a great team. I'm looking forward to it. But that schedule, I mean, I know you can't get around anybody in the SWAC, but their schedule, oh my goodness, that is a monster schedule.
This is good stuff. I like this. This is what it's about. We got to get to the fall.
Yeah, we're gonna have to take a little deeper dive in this, boy. I tell you, the spring is gonna be fun, but it gets you so excited. You're just ready for the fall as well. With that, we're gonna bring in our first guest as they'll matriculate in. But we're gonna start with the brains of it all. So it sounds good to me in terms of just getting it done. And he happens to be a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated as well. And so we say in these parts, brother Trevin Jones is in the studio, in the lab with us.
What's up, Six?
What's up?
Shortly, gonna come on board, and we also have AD. So we'll have them as they're jumping in and bringing us. We have some great news to the folks out there as we push the envelope around here, and you know what we do. Those that I'm connected to, and I'm just glad to be a part of this. But we have a new organization, a new association, HBCU-Pro Sports Media. You can go to HBCU-Pro-Sports-Media.com, excuse me. Again, let me do it one more time. HBCU-Pro-Sports-Media.com, and you start reading up on it just after you get finished with this interview. So stay connected as we do it. But welcome to the lab, gentlemen.
Definitely don't go nowhere. Got to check it out. HBCU Pro Sports Media Association. In the background, Doc, I wanted to have that one. Of course, you know I'm an affiliate of Urban Media Today Radio. I appreciate you allowing me to be on the show today. But it's about HBCU Pro Sports Media Association, and you and Mr. Bishop know exactly what we're talking about. And if I'm excited and sound excited, I am excited. It's a collective group of great people with great minds that are just getting it started and laying a foundation for people in the media that cover HBCUs sports programs and even the student athletes, and then even those that go on to become pro athletes. We're trying to make sure that there's a connection there as well. I guess we're trying to become headquarters, Doc.
Yeah, I like it. I like the mindset.
Like that term.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the president of the organization you listening to. The brainchild in a lot of different ways, working with everybody to get it done. But he really had a passion, and look what has come to fruition. With that, we have none other than the second vice president, Ty Miller, and you've heard this voice all over the place. If you followed HBCU Sports, he's one that you can't miss. Welcome to the show, Ty.
Hey man, nice to be here.
Oh, it's good to have you. Good to have you, man. We look what we done snuck up on, man. We got it big time, boy. The voices of HBCU Sports. With that, before I pass the mic and let some of my co-hosts jump in and ask some follow-up questions, I'm gonna go back to you, Trevin, and talk a little bit about how this came together. And then I'm gonna go to Ty to ask why is it important. But let me start with you, Trevin, in terms of how did this come together in terms of what was your thought process?
Well, actually, it was something that was inherent, so to speak, if I could say, for lack of a better way of saying it. As I was growing up, I always followed the HBCUs, even though they didn't get a lot of coverage. I was very familiar with Grambling State, very familiar with Southern University, very familiar with Lincoln and Cheney, and then Norfolk State, where I ended up going to school. But as I went through my college years and then got to connect with other people in the medium, I studied mass communications, of course, and I'm a radio person by trade, producer. I came across other people with like minds who were thinking, well, wait a minute, we're not getting enough exposure. And then the exposure that we are getting, sometimes the people that reported on us, they reported it incorrectly, for lack of a better way of saying it, or left out facts, or didn't get into the background of the stories of the athletes or the people involved. So as I was able to come across people in the media that also said, and there were people way before us, like we just didn't know it, but there are people before our time that thought the same way. I say, we need to get together. It needs to be unified. The medium coverage needs to be a place where it has a solid platform foundation to whereas everybody could actually work with each other, use each other in a sense, to help make sure that the exposure was sound, accurate, and then get the support that it needed. So I talked to Ty, I talked to you, I talked to Jay Sokol, I talked to Luke Williams, I talked to Charles Bishop, who's on this call. I mean, there's so many people that I've actually talked to, and I just said to myself, okay, let me just start making phone calls. And it was based on all of us. It wasn't just me. It was based on all of us saying, well, you know what, that's a good idea. And even with my conversations with Ty, he and I used to work at Sheridan Broadcasting. We used to sit back on a regular basis covering sports, and we would talk about this. And then he brought up the fact that people like Roscoe Nance and other people thought about the same thing. And then come to find out, other people have tried it in the past. It just didn't. It got to certain points, and then it would fall off. So that's how this idea came about. It was just a matter of reaching out to others and them responding, because you guys didn't have to answer the phone call, but all of you did. And then when you did, you suggested other people to contact. So this is just the start. It's only 19 strong right now, and I say only because it's going to blow up as well as we get organized and open it up.
No doubt about it. I thank you for sharing it. As you talked about, the organization currently includes leaders from journalists with years of experience in the field, including yourself, Trevin A. Jones from Urban Media Today, Eric Moore and Luke Williams from Onadon, Black College Sports, Ty Miller that we're about to jump into with Power News Radio Network. As they talked about, both of them were connected at Sheridan, that you all probably that follow sports recognize that connection. Jay Sokol and Michael Coker from Black College Nines that we've had on the show, and humbly myself, Ken Rashad, in terms of those, in terms of HBCU Sports, HBCU Game Day, Stephen Gaither, they're all connected. So we're not leaving anybody out. We reached out to some people and they weren't quite ready at this time to ask some questions, but we're coming back to get you as well. So we want them all. This is going to be open and inclusive, but as Ty would say, why is this important, Ty?
Well, thank you, Dr. Cavil. One of the things that I think about most about this organization is important because not only that the athletes and the administrators and the coaches and everybody who has been associated with Black College sports over the years need recognition, but we need recognition. We've never had a central location where all of us can vibe together and help each other out. Now, of course, there's the National Association of Black Journalists, NABJ, and that helps all journalists. But from a sports perspective, we've never had anything like this. And like Trevin mentioned earlier, we've had many conversations over the years. I've been covering Black college sports, particularly football, for 30 years. And he and I go back 20 years. We've been having conversations about doing something like this for years. And I know there has been B-Sided, which is, the Black College Sports Information Direction and things of that nature. But it was not, exclusive, but it did not include everybody from all walks of journalistic life, including reporters, photographers, writers, et cetera, et cetera. And something like that was needed, not only because we don't have a central location to be recognized, but also because we can help each other in the vein of helping us get jobs, not only to report on the athletes and their exploits, and also what they do when they go to the pros, but we need a location where we can talk to each other about what is going on in the business. Because other platforms out there, and I'm talking most notably like ESPN and Fox and even NBC and ABC and CBS, they have their situations together. And you don't see us in those organizations in mass. Well, here's a central location where we can come together and help each other out in our careers, because we're at the intersection of sports and politics, where right now there's been a call to have situations like these come to the forefront so they can be recognized. And so people like myself, you, Dr. Ville, Trevin, Charles, you mentioned people like Eric and Lou, who I've known for several years, have been toiling in this industry and not gotten the recognition. So it's not so much as people recognizing us, but we take the recognition and put ourselves to the forefront.
Thank you for that. Wonderfully said. I told you we had a master behind the stall, Ty Dilla. The boys bringing all that funk. Mission statement. The mission of the HBCU-Pro Sports Media Association is to transform and empower the culture of media by providing informative broadcast stories, rich contextual reporting, and inspirational photography of the marginalized by educating, inspiring, and informing a global community. A mouthpiece, but needed to be said. We've been joined by AD Drew of BCSN and Sports Rap with Brian and AD of the Sports Rap Show. He is the treasurer. So I'm going to allow Charles to follow up with the question as he's part of the organization. Mike will be getting involved as well. We wanted the Mike to have his time with all that traveling. We were going to do all the nuts and bolts and then pull him in as we always do to get it done. But let me go to Charles and ask a follow-up question to AD.
Sure. And I wanted to ask this question, AD, in terms of, I know Trevin and I, we've had this conversation, but how important is it to recognize the voice of Black media, especially in terms of covering our schools, HBCUs, and picking up all the nuance, all the everything that encompasses this HBCU environment? How important is it to have voices like ours in terms of driving the narrative of HBCUs?
Give me just a moment while they'll let this, my computer's going off for a second. Let me shut that off.
No problem. We'll get you straight. Let me go back and let Trevin answer that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Hey, don't sleep on AD. He's coming up with such a serious answer that he's like, okay, let me percolate. Here we go. I got it. So there he goes. I told you.
AD working on a thesis over there.
No. Actually, Charles,
hey, y'all don't understand. This is how our pre-production meeting has been going as we setting up for this organization. That's how it's been going every week. Come up, boy. It's a ball of fun and laugh. A lot of work, but it's fun. Go ahead.
But actually, Charles, when I think back to how important this is, I actually started 1999, 2000, somewhere around in there. I was a volunteer at a radio station called KJLU. And what that is a public radio station for Lincoln University in Missouri, in Jefferson City, Missouri. just started out as a disc jockey, Friday night, Saturday night, just kind of whenever. And the one thing I noticed when it came to the station, they didn't even cover their own teams. I'm like, how do we have a campus radio station that does not even cover its own teams? You got football games going on, you got basketball games, you got whatever, and the broadcast of these games are not on the public access radio station on campus. That's when it first occurred to me that there is some type of disparity in this industry and in our thinking. Me being a volunteer, I really was not in a position to be able to do anything except ask a couple of questions. Going into the professional workforce and everything, but media has always been my background. I started dibbling and dabbling when I first picked up a video camera in high school, and somebody asked me to tape an event. And next thing you know, I'm in whatever the production room is at that point in time, dubbing VHS tape to VHS tape to make a final production. That's what kind of triggered it. And to be in an organization like this with like-minded people going through the same things, we're all different. We have different experiences. We may even all have different goals, but we have enough in common going the right direction where an organization like this is important, and there's a brotherhood. I didn't know Charles Bishop. I had heard of Kenyatta Cavil. I didn't know who he was. I seen his name on the internet. Trevin Jones, I think I may have heard him on a broadcast watching a MEAC game once upon a time, And it goes on and on with the different people in this in this organization. I knew the people from Onedin. I had read them. I didn't know them. I knew of them. So it just kind of goes on, and having that support group. Now I can pick up a phone. Hey, Trevin, you got a moment? Can you come on the podcast, or or Ty, or Charles has done some Florida Memorial games with me. Who would have thunk that a year ago?
Very
so
true.
And with everything that's gone on in 2020, for a group like this to come together in a group that is needed, in an industry that is needed in this genre, it is important. I'm just proud that somebody sent me an email or a text and asked me to come to a meeting once upon a time.
Very well said. Powerful, powerful. Hashtag powerful. With that, that's Dr. Bill inside HBCU Sports Labs. If you all don't mind, stick with us. We're going to take a quick break. This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop. We're interviewing HBCU-Pro Sports Media. We have the president, second vice president, and the treasurer talking to us, Trevin, Ty, and AD. We'll be right back after this quick break, and we'll let Mike jump in here with a follow-up question. HBCUSportsMedia.com. Check.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
Q Time is our classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q Time, an Urban Passport member.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
This is Dr. Ville with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We're interviewing the president, second vice president, and the treasurer for HBCUSportsMedia.com. The vision of the HBCU-Pro Sports Media Association is to acknowledge the heritage of historically Black colleges and universities, HBCUs, and the connection to professional sports organizations, to illuminate the pride of the African-American community and the Black diaspora, to recognize the voice of Black media, and to create unity for substantial change in the world. With that, Mike, go ahead and follow up with a question of whichever guest you want to ask.
Yeah, well, this question is really for all three. If you look at, HBCU media, one of the concerns, if you look at it from a pure business marketing standpoint, is that it's splintered. The market is so big, but you have so many talented individuals. What is your proposal for kind of compiling and corralling that or focusing that effort without losing the ideals of your mission and vision statement? There are a lot of talented individuals on this panel discussing here tonight. But some of those individuals that are not here with us may lose voice. What do you propose, and how does HBCU Sports Media, how can that come into play with actually, propelling the HBCU sports voice without losing that cultural impact and not a coming off as so splintered?
Can I tackle that one first?
Absolutely.
I'm gonna just make it as simple as possible. When I eat, you eat. That's the way that I feel. We, like you said, everybody in this room has different talents, different things that we're good at. Unfortunately, none of us are at the level where this is our primary bread and butter way to earn a living. So this is secondary. But those connections that we get, if I can point you, Michael, to somebody, be it media, be it in your other career, and I can point somebody to you to help you eat, I'm going to do that. Same thing with Charles, same thing with Trevin and Ty, and anybody in this association. So when I eat, you eat, and I think this feeling has been reciprocated throughout the members of this association. I yield the floor to anybody else who wants to throw in on that.
Man, all this food talk and the commercials got me.
I know, right? All this food talk. I know, got me hungry.
I like, let's eat. You eat, I eat.
I like that.
And if I can, gentlemen, that's the basis. That's the whole ideology behind this. This is going to be an association like no other. And the reason that we say that is because if you look at it, there are people that are throughout the country. We're not in one certain area. HBCUs, sports coverage has been from the East Coast, which has been very easy. And then you go west. But then once you pass, and correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, maybe like Texas. Once you pass Texas, there's really no HBCUs past Texas going west. But the mere fact that we reach from the East Coast to as far as Texas as a group of individuals with the like mind of focusing on what the task at hand is and keeping that focus. You asked how will we maintain not becoming splintered? You keep the focus. The task at hand is to enhance the coverage of HBCU sports and to also enhance the coverage of those sports alum who've gone on to the professional ranks. That's the focus. As long as we maintain that focus as a group, we'll never be splintered again. As a matter of fact, again, this association is going to correct all that. And I like what AD said because he's absolutely right. When I eat, you eat. You might not eat as much as I eat. I might eat a little bit more. You might eat a little bit more. But at the same time, just because I fed you this time or you fed me this time, the next time I may be feeding somebody else. And let me take a step back for a second, gentlemen. I noticed, and I don't want the young ladies out there to get it wrong or get it twisted. AD said that there's a brotherhood. There's a unification of a family here. The sisters, we need you involved. We were going to have you involved. It's just that we started out with a group of men for the foundation, and that just was by happen chance. That was just by connection. But there are many young ladies out there, many women out there who've been covering HBCU sports as well, and different mediums. We're talking photographers, we're talking about voices, we're talking about ADs, SIDs, we're talking about all genres and all areas. We are trying to bring that together so that the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association not only becomes a vital asset, but becomes a tool that other people can use. And that will help us not become splintered.
You said one thing. You said one thing. I'm sorry, and go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You finally acknowledged that there are HBCUs west of the Mississippi. I knew those guys.
Yes,
that is my thing. You've seen coverage. You see East Coast schools. You see how you're gonna see more how there is a Jackson State with close to the Mississippi. There's a Southern. There's a TSU. Give us some love. We are west of the Mississippi. Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But are y'all giving love to Langston out there in Oklahoma by themselves?
I was going to say the same thing. Love to Langston.
I want to add this, Mike. First of all, I'm feeling that Cowboys helping in the background. I could use one of those. So.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, there you go. There you go. There you go. You go, Lita. You're good with me.
Just to follow what was being talked about just now, one of the key components of this organization is that there are strength in numbers. It's been said, and we've been mentioning this earlier, that for so many years, so many of us have been out there individually doing our own things. But when you bring these strength in numbers together, it can only create something for the greater good, which is what we're all about. And when you talk about bringing a diverse group of people together, I could just vouch for myself and my own organization, the Power News Radio Network, and my other individual thing, Championship Chase, which is a local TV show in Pittsburgh covering the Steelers and the AFC North teams. We have females involved already. So I'm sure most of us, if not all of us, I know Trevin, one of his right-hand person. So women are already involved in this organization. You know, they may not be front and center, but like Trevin said, we're asking for them to come front and center. We'll be inviting them front and center, and we want them to be a part of this organization. But the key element is there's strength in numbers. And when you bring something like this together, we can be there for the greater good to help everybody, like AD said, to everybody eat. Because you look at situations like right now where all the social responsibility talk happened soon after the George Floyd murder. So all of these organizations, a lot of organizations, banks, philanthropists, we're saying, okay, we are seeking out people that can carry the message forward that needs to be carried forward. Well, in the sports vein, that is what the HBCU Media Association will do. We can carry the message forward, and we can bring up other people into this organization so that it runs on into the future.
Great point. This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We're interviewing HBCU Pro Sports Media with the president, Trevin Jones, the second vice president, Ty Miller, as well as the treasurer, A.D. Drew. Like we said, we have many other people involved. You'll go to the website and you get our first press release, you'll get a second press release, and you'll get some specifics on individuals. With that, I wanted to give the president, Trevin Jones, a closing thought, and thank you for joining us today, taking out the valuable time out of your schedule.
Oh, it's greatly appreciated. First and foremost, it's the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association. No, everybody gets it wrong. Somebody tries to change the name. I want all of you to know who are listening and watching. Everybody here already knows it's the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association. We will be here. We started May 8th. We're going to be around. We are established and growing. We're trying to get involved. We're inviting members, people to become members. We're talking about you, play-by-play analysts. We're talking about color commentators. We're talking about PA announcers. We're talking about the voices of HBCUs. We're talking about photographers. We're talking about sports information directors, the whole gamut. We want you involved in one way, shape, or form, because the connection here with the HB Pro Sports Media Association is going to bring the unity that we need in 2021 and moving forward to make everything a success with the coverage of Black college sports and those students that go on to become professionals, because they always give respect and honor their alum. So we're here to help with that, and we're going to grow. I just want to say thank you to all of you that are involved already, because Roy is behind the scenes right now, but Roy's involved too, so don't sleep. We're trying to get as many people as possible as we continue the growth.
Thank you, gentlemen. Very great closing comments. Again, this is Dr. Ville inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, interviewing Trevin, Ty, and AD of the HBCU-Pro Sports Media Association. Check us out. Go to the website, www.hbcuprosportsmedia.com. Get more information, and we'll have some follow-up interviews as we'll bring in different people involved in the organization so you can get a little feel from everybody. This is just a one shot at it, and just wanted to formally introduce everybody and jump off, if you would, in regards to where we're going as we move forward. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right, appreciate you.
Thanks, fellas. I appreciate it.
Great article, Doc.
Thank you.
The hat, man.
Oh yeah, that article was great.
There you go. And I'll need to get them different places. Go to the website. You'll find a place where you can get them all group and individual. You're going to have more and more as we continue to move forward. Again, thank you for your time, gentlemen. Let's jump into it. In terms of that article, we did have an article I wanted to see talking about moving forward. Coming, you can go to BCSN. Type in Dynasty Makers, Saban follows path to HBCU legends. Article out there that I got the co-write with Brian Forford. He's the second half, if you would, of that sports rap, BCSN. Great article that I really wanted to get into, and we might tease it out just a little bit. Go check out the article, and we'll give you a chance to come take a deeper dive and figure out what's going on there. Saban follows the path of HBCU legends. Any thoughts from your perspective, Charles, in terms of that article?
Yes. There was one name that, and don't get me wrong, I did not lose the crux of what the article is talking about, but there was one name in particular that I did not see on the and others list, and as you know, it's the reason. Why I've, bumped heads with Ty back in the day with the Sheridan polls, and then how I came to Dr. Cavil was, how is it that W.C. Gordon somehow continues to miss out on these, dynastic sort of conversations? And that's, one of the, I guess, questions that I had. And again, it's a tremendous read. I invite everybody to go out there and go read it, because when you compare Eddie Robinson and Jay Gaither in terms of what Coach Saban has done now, and you kind of step back and take a look at Jay Gaither, Billy Nix, and Eddie Robinson, and you are in complete awe of what these men were doing without the resources. So I want to start with that framework. That is the important framework. But as I kept reading and I saw the and others, that jumped out for me.
Charles, you do not have to excuse yourself on this show for your Jackson State bias. We got the East Coast bias.
The Jackson State bias. Come on now. Come on, man.
When you look at it, his winning percentage was significant enough to be merit. But if you look at the list where we talked about other dynasties, and this is one of the problems that you have, when you look at everybody on this list, they had 6 Black college national championships or more. That wasn't necessarily his fault. I will hear to you that, but that was our breaking point, because we were trying to look at, me looking at statistics, and I'm not saying that it was necessarily right, but that was the crux of your answer when we had to separate it. And so we looked at a lot of these different individuals. We started with those that were really back in the day that kind of came in at crux. And that's why you had 3 foundational people that we looked at, that we pulled out, that really separated from the field. And there was some question, and to be frank with you, to see if Billy Nix should be in there. But when you really start to break down Billy Nix, the way that he was inclusive was not only his national championships that put him in that mix along with the other coaches, but obviously his record against his peers.
Sure.
Put him in such a way that he became one of the three people in there. And then the question that really gets into this is we always have this four-headed monster, if you would, in terms of Rushmore, in terms of the mountain there in those four figures. If you had those three, would you include him as the fourth one on that list?
It would be hard to put him on the Mount Rushmore, but I normally take a look and I hone in, especially the Central State national championships that we see in the mid to mid 80s to 90, when I thought especially Jackson State teams are at their most dominant. I never could figure out with the Sheridan polls how Central State was consistently getting the Black College National Championship. And keep in mind, this is during the
we got history
with
it. We can answer that question today. And that's what's so beautiful about having
I definitely
HBCU-Pro Sports Association. And Mike, I'm gonna let you jump in here. I'm not gonna hold you out. But since we got the people of the hour,
I'm just like,
maybe he can answer that question for you, Charles.
Yeah, I certainly can answer that of why Central State was in the mix so often, primarily because of consistency. And one of the things about the Sheridan poll is what we did, and we historically did it during the Sheridan years, was we did not separate the Black college teams where you had people who would not rank the Division II teams or the NIA teams or 1AA teams together. We did that consistently because our model was that there was not much separation between the Black colleges when it came to competition with each other. And we've seen that bear out over the years in terms of certain Division II teams, beating certain 1AA teams or FCS teams and things of that nature. And I could give you a story about Joe Taylor, who won championships at Hampton. And when Hampton was Division II, Joe Taylor would always lobby us, hey, Ty, we're just as good as a Jackson State. We're just as good as a Florida A&M. Before he even went to the MEAC, when he was a CIAA member. Rick Comagee, when he was at Tuskegee, was beating up on the big boys. We had the lobbying all the time. So for us, it was not so much as the lobbying from the coaches, because they were also part of our Black college polls. They were voting. They were voting on the polls themselves. But it was really based on inclusiveness as a way of getting recognition for all those involved. Now, this may not answer the question as to why Jackson State was not at the top of the heap, so to speak, because they kind of fell by the wayside after the Walter Payton years and for a while there. But W.C. Gordon certainly gets our nod as one of the best coaches ever. But more notably, during my time at Sheridan, it was James Carson, who I got tapes on James Carson talking about Jackson State. And you guys may not even be familiar with this. Jackson State under James Carson hated going to the playoffs because James Carson would say, he had this gravelly voice, Ty, they're going to send us somewhere like Western Illinois. We'll go there on a cold day. Nothing, we'll be done. James Carson really advocated like we should be playing each other for a championship as opposed to going elsewhere. But certainly we knew about all the teams west of the Mississippi, no matter where they were. We know about all teams. And one of the things about our poll used to run the New York Times, and often it would be said that a lot of people didn't know certain colleges existed. And that I thought was part of the beauty of our polls, that we didn't separate them. We ranked them together so that all colleges, based on their prowess on the field, could get recognition nationwide.
Well, I'm glad. I would say this. I'm glad that you did rank them together, because one of the reasons I even had a voice is I was one of the first ones out there to create two different poll frameworks. And that was just because of all the conversation. But look where we are now. We're all together. Not to say that one is right or one is wrong.
Right.
The fact that it gave me a to put my foot in there. So it's a great point. I'm going to let Mike jump in here, and then I have a follow-up question in regards to maybe to take an even deeper dive in terms of analyzing the poll ranking.
Yeah, just had to get that Jackson State plug. We had to get it in there.
It's funny. It comes full circle because I was 14, 15 years old, hot with the Sheridan poll. And here I am.
You just had to get that in there. No, all right. My concern was this. Yeah. He started preaching it going on.
I carried this grudge for I don't know how many years with the Sheridan.
I think I
don't want to tell your age, but what is that? Almost 40 years?
Yes, struck a 40-year nerve with him, man. All right. So my concern is when you compare the data and the statistics in two different sets. You started out with Saban, and this is a great article, don't get me wrong. But you compare Saban, you mentioned Woody Hayes, and then you compare the greats. I wonder how much you normalize the data. You know what I mean? So you look at what, when Eddie Robinson got to Grambling, it was Grambling Normal College. When the great Billy R. Nix got to, it was Prairie View Normal College. They didn't have the $1 million budgets. They didn't have the $1 million facilities. They didn't have the recruiting. They didn't have all of the scouts, yet they were still successful. I wonder how you normalize that out with data that we look at today in terms of successful coaches. And making myself clear, that's my concern with looking at the greats from my perspective. And I grew up with Billy R. Nix. My family, if I didn't go to Prairie View, I wasn't going to be fed. I was raised on Billy Nix and going to, the Hill. But there were other greats. I always joke with CB. I always joke with others. But when you compare the greats of HBCU errors, how do you normalize that with the Sabans, the Woody Hayes, the other folks that you brought up in that, and normalize the data a little bit?
Well, first, this was the article, and this was not statistical research. So let me put that out there now that you're in the doctoral program and you want to know you just take a class. So I understand all that madness because I've done it a couple of times. As I said, my mentor made sure when I published those papers that we did that. But in all seriousness, I think when you look at it, even if you normalize it, you just talk about great teams, right? The biggest thing that you can talk about now is one knock that you can say about Nick Saban. He has everything.
Yeah.
There is no question in regards to the resources that he needs, that he gets for his program. Those institutions didn't have all of it.
Right.
So the question may be how you normalize it. May be a process that really talks about the comparative nature of the two. And we'll get a second match up this and talk a little more deep in this.
Well, Doc,
Lawrence wanted to make sure that you understood from the middle of 1962 to 64, the PVA Panthers won 24 straight games and 2 BCS Black College National Championship. He said, chew on that, Mike. And that was Lawrence B. White. He talking about that copied in the SWAC again. But go ahead, Todd, jump back in here.
I think one of the things that's left out of all the conversations about, and I'm an Alabama guy, I grew up down in Alabama, so I've been following Alabama football since I was a toddler, for the most part. You grew up in Alabama, there was scant coverage of Miles College, Alabama State, Alabama A&M, so that's what you grew up in, that culture. So one thing that I always looked at, and I still look at when it comes to sort of dynasties like Alabama, and even when Grambling was a dynasty in Black college football, you got to coach these players up. So I hate people to sometimes disregard the fact that the resources are the reasons these people have these championships. Because number one, how many times have you gotten 5-star players who turn out to be duds in practice and they end up at Black colleges? And I've had people like Joe Taylor tell me, or even Buddy Pugh at South Carolina State, and said, Ty, just because a guy transferred here doesn't mean he's going to play if he was a 5-star, because there's a reason why he's transferring. So in many cases, these kids always have to be coached up. So there's something that goes into the coaching dynamic that I think oftentimes we as people who pick apart, why someone wins or why someone has a huge winning percentage, you cannot take away the human element in terms of how you coach a kid up, how you find out what makes the kid tick, how you can keep that group of kids together like Eddie Robinson did on a bus, keeping players together. So the human element has to be made a part of it, no matter how many resources some may have, because Alabama's not for all kids. Just like the kids transfer, but you can't take out the human element as to why some of these. So it's got to come down to sometimes coaches are fathers, they're administrators, they're socialists, they're best friends, all of the above. And that's if I were looking, I haven't read the article yet. I really need to read it, but that's the category I really put Nick Saban in. That category. He's not just a coach. This guy is a well-rounded guy in terms of he cares about those players, and for the most part, those players care about him.
If I can, straight from Alabama. See, they brainwash.
I know. See, that's that Alabama brainwash. Well, that's that Alabama whitewashing happening right there.
I do want to make
Hey, Doc, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, hold on one second. I do want to shout out Keith Martin. W.C. Gordon won 28 straight SWAC games. Coach Nix was a great coach. His record speaks loudly for him, but he wanted to make sure he got that in there for W.C. Gordon. So touche, Charles. I wanted to make sure I shared your love before I won't be able to get you back to the show.
Yeah, Charles is
we are up upon it. So Trevin, I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes here as we are hard pass on the radio show late live side on KCS 1230, but he allows us to go over a little bit. So just be mindful of that. And I do want to make sure we get a little bit of the basketball poll rankings in here. So your thoughts about that. So we'll hold over and push in there. So Trevin, go ahead. If you would quickly give me your thoughts. I do want to hear them.
Yes, I'm only going to take seconds. Coach Eddie Robinson, Coach Billy Joe, those guys were like Ty said, Nick Saban was more than a coach. Well, those guys actually made their players family. Like these were actually families. So the hurdles that they had to overcome, I don't, forgive me, Alabama fans, but I don't think Nick Saban overcame the same hurdles that the gentlemen that we're referring to when it comes to black college football had to overcome. I mean, when you have a coach out there lining the fields, I mean, you had a coach over there. I don't even think Coach Eddie Robinson had a stadium when he started. So it's like when you're talking about those comparisons, there's no comparison. And when you talk about normalizing it, you can't normalize it. I mean, history is history. If you research your history, you'll see that there's been different sets of history for different sets of individuals. I'll just leave it right there.
Ooh, man, this is fine. We're going to have to pick this back up. This is good.
Can I get one? Can I get one quick one?
Here go AD.
Jump in here on a little spot, make it quick, AD, but go ahead and say something.
I'm going to take 30 seconds. I'm glad y'all realize that there are HBCUs, just like there are HBCUs west of the Mississippi. There are also HBCUs north of the Mason-Dixon line. And I'm glad y'all recognize that Central State was a dynasty during this day with Coach Billy Joe.
There you go.
And and if you talk about that Mount Rushmore, you have to seriously consider putting him on that Mount Rushmore, not only what he did at 3 different levels, but also for some of the people who came off of the Billy Joe tree. That's my comment.
Can't be borrowing my term. West of the Mississippi, you gonna tee off on that. Don't borrow my term. I throw a flag on the play right there.
I had to take your analogy and one.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, we're gonna have to take a deeper dive and bring some of these gentlemen back to really get into discussion of the article. And really the second part, and for all those out there following us, those 3 that we have out there, who is the fourth person that you put on Mount Rushmore in terms of HBCU football coaches? Who are those 4? We got 3 listed. I want to see if you have 4, or you might be like Charles. You might want to take one of those down and add 2 of them. Let us know.
I need to see Rod Broadway somewhere.
Good point.
He didn't have the chance. He didn't do it as long. Now, in terms of what he did with cross divisions and multiple plays, there's not an argument that somebody has done it better. But again, the threshold here was 6 black college national championships, and it creates a fine demarcation in regards to who's in, who's out. You may have other arguments, and you may create a different framework of how you measure it. But one of our key indicators was winning percentage. What did you do against your peers at that time? And the third one, that was really the first one, the highest one, is did you get to that 6 HBCU national championship bell cow limit, which really separates the Mount Rushmore from the rest of the pack that are historic, but separating that line. with that, as we start to close, I did want to get a little basketball because y'all done stole all this football time. My basketball folks going to be mad at me. Let me give you the top 5 rankings because Drew has his coming out, and you can go and compare to that. Obviously, Jimmy's is out, so his is out, and he adds players of the week. So go check that on BCSN and compare it to what we got. Let's start. Women are not, Chivalry's not dead. Start with the women. I want to get y'all thoughts on this. Y'all can jump on here in terms of giving us some feedback later. But those still receiving votes: Alabama A&M Bulldogs 4-2, 2-1 of the SWAC. Alcorn State Braves 4-6, 4-2 of the SWAC. Grambling State Tigers 4-4, 3-1 of the SWAC, and Southern Jaguars 4-8, 4-2 of the SWAC. Obviously, this poll is released today, so it's the games inclusive of yesterday, last night, released today. Top 5 programs starting at number 5 on the women's side. Morgan State Bears 6-2, 3-1 out of the MEAC. 1 first place vote. They fall all the way with 61 points. They were previously 2, but staying in that category. You have number 4, Jackson State, 6-5, 5-1. Both of those teams didn't play, so it kind of hurt them not playing. They do earn the first place vote in Jackson State Lady Tigers that they didn't have. They stay at number 4, move up to 70 points. You have number 3, Alabama State Hornets, 4-1 overall and 4-1 in the conference race. Had their first loss to Southern last week. Stay at number 3, lose some first place votes, but they remain 1 with 81 points in the poll. Number 2, Howard Bison. 7-2, 3-1, did not play, stayed number 2 with 83 points. They dropped down, lose that number 1 ranking. Bringing us to number 1, North Carolina A&T State Aggies 7-1, 6-0, perfect in the conference race. Move all the way up to number 5 to the number 1 spot with 4 first place votes. So North Carolina A&T Aggies earned number 1 ranking and reached number 4. Don't have the time to get y'all to tease it out, but I see a lot of folks having consternation in terms of the poll, so I like that. It means we're going to have something to talk about as we continue to do the poll ranking and see how this plays out. Let's go to the men's side just for a little more. One team did drop out this week, so let's see how it changed. Receiving votes, none other than the Hampton Pirates sit at 7-8, 6-4. Morgan State Bears 8-4, 3-2. Both Morgan State of the MEAC, Hampton now the Big South, excuse me. Started putting back in the MEAC, that would have got a lot of people upset. Southern Jaguars 6-3-2, 27 points as they receiving votes, meaning they fall out of the poll, as I said. Florida A&M Rattlers hadn't playing overall, but they still getting some votes, 2-6, 1-0. Starting at the top 5. Who are in the top 5? None other than the Alabama A&M Bulldogs, 4-0, 2-0. Keep surprising folks. Got a big win over Southern University to say that they for real. A couple of folks on here still question them. I just don't understand. 45 points. Stay at number 5. Number 4, Norfolk State Spartans, 8-6, 3-3. Previously number 1, they fall all the way to number 4, as I said, 1 point. 1 first place vote, 67 points. Number 3, North Carolina A&T, 6-9, 2-0. 1 first place vote, 79. They dropped from the 2 spot. Bringing us to number 2, a new entry into the top 5 this week. Coppin State Eagles, 6-9, 5-1. 2 big victories over Norfolk State, the previous number 1. Getting up there at 88 points, not ranked. Bringing us to the new number 1 this week.
Who is it? Who is it?
Panthers, 5-4, 4-0. Move all the way up to number 5 as they continue to win. Surprising folks as people didn't think they were going to be there. Charles said they need to be up there. Mike said they need to be up there. Well, guess what? This week, they are at the top of the polls. We'll see if they stay there. Number 3, they move all the way to number 1, 99 points. Wish we had more time, but go check it out and see the comparison and see how it matches up with AD Drew. You know, Jimmy gets us in there. I will say this about Jimmy Poe. He had Hampton in the top 5. I don't have him anywhere near it. In fact, he had him top 3, I think, or something like that. So let you know, Jimmy still puts in his magic. Yeah, I agree, Mike. Trying to figure that out. You have him number 4. Wow, that's crazy. We'll have to bring that conversation back up. But that'll do it for us today as we have to close out and get you back into your business. Appreciate you checking us out and joining. This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab as we close out the show today with our big-time guest of HBC-Pro Sports Media Association, Ty, Trevin, and AD giving us all the time. I sure appreciate it, gentlemen, because y'all stayed over a little longer and gave us some extra kudos. so much wonderful conversation when we do it like that. But that'll do it for us. Again, thank you for joining us for Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, the College of HBCU Sports, with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Hope you enjoyed our interview with our guests, bringing us hot and heavy. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday right here at 6 o'clock. We look forward to next week, and we will discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. That's Dr. KENYATTACAVIL. Again, that's Dr. KENYATTACAVIL. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Mike?
Lecture.
Dismiss.
I hope my team they won. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson. And you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, boy. You gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, yeah. We represent that swag, that MEAC, and let